Okay, so let's get started. So my name is Catherine, and I'm a member from the financial team. So I do with financial functions in Author. So today I'm just going to introduce you about zero integration. So firstly, the relationship between Author and Xero is that Author would be an invoice generator. So you will just enter all the invoices, for example, rent charges, direct rent, or contract views, property owner remittances in Author, sorry. You just enter them in Author, and through the sync, they will come over to Xero. And Xero, you go to reconciliation page and you will reconcile those transactions you created in Author with the bank clients you imported from your bank accounts. So I'm in a dummy account now, and I will just go through all the settings of Xero with you. So basically, you can see all the mappings that you need to set up your Xero integration in Author. So you can go to financials and go to Xero screen, and you can see all these mappings. So firstly, about mapping account code. So it basically means that all the transaction type in Author will have a corresponding account, Xero account. So for example, in this page, you can see on the left-hand side, those are all your Author transaction types. And on the right-hand side, those are the Xero chart of accounts. So for example, we have direct rent for your transaction, for your rent transaction type. So if you're a property owner, you just use this transaction type, and then it will be that you can see this account will be mapped with Xero revenue account, sales account, because the direct rent for property owner is their income, is their revenue. So, and for example, the disbursement charge recharge, it will be always used for the contractor bills. So that will be a direct cost for you. So it maps with the direct expenses in Xero. And it's the same for the rent charge. So the rent charge is the transaction type used by a property manager, and it will be mapped with a current liability account, which is normally property owner control account in your Xero, because the rent received for the property manager is not their income, and it's their liability because they need to remit this amount to the property owner. So every transaction type in Author need to be mapped with a transaction an account in Xero for them to go across to Xero successfully. If it's not mapped correctly, it will go to another account, like go to an incorrect account in Xero. So each time when you create a new transaction in Author, you will need to map it with an account in Xero from this page. So this is mapping accounts. And the second one, mapping bank accounts. So basically you have all your Author bank accounts on the left-hand side, and they will all be mapped to the corresponding Xero bank accounts. So you need to make sure that the bank details for these two accounts are exactly the same in Xero and in Author. So this is pretty straightforward. And for mapping contact, so the contact in Author basically means the contractors, property owners, letting agents, and so on. So they will have an Author contact and Xero contact. So if your Xero is a clean Xero, well, this Xero contact will be created automatically after the first sync. And if you Xero is an existing Xero, so we will do the mapping for you to map the corresponding Author contact with your Xero contact. that which is existing. And for the mapping tenancies, this is basically the same as mapping contact. So you'll have your author tenancies contact, and they will be mapped with a zero contact. So for the mapping tenancy, another point, so it is a little bit different from mapping contact. So for each tenancy in author, they will have two accounts in zero, basically two contact in zero. So one for the rent and other transactions, and another one is only for the deposit. And in mapping unit, you have the tracking categories. So you can see the default ones on author is unit and property. So property is the secondary tracking category. And it basically means that all the units in author will be linked with a unit tracking code in zero and the property tracking code in zero as well. So this will enable you to run a report in zero for that specific property or that specific unit. So for example, if you have multiple units in one property, you can run the report in zero on that property tracking code to see what's the situation and how every transaction goes on inside that property. And mapping tax rate is also very straightforward. So you'll have all the tax rates in author, and you need to map them with the tax rates you have in zero. And so this is all the mapping screens that we have in author. And is there any problem in regards to this part? Okay, no. Okay. So now I will just show you how to reconcile a simple rent. Yes, Karen? I see you raise your hand. Do you have any questions? Okay, so why does author create numbers after the tenant's name in zero, and do we need to keep it? So this is by default. Those numbers, we will call it the nominal code for each tenant. So you can't let it disappear, unfortunately. And so that means that you can search for the nominal code for the tenant in zero to bring it up. And this is just like the nominal code for all the chart of accounts you have in zero. So you just need to keep it. And is basically just put one transaction on the back. Yeah. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I would just go on. Okay, cool. So now I'll just go into a tenancy in author, and I'll create a rent charge, and I will let it go to zero and show you the reconciliation process. Okay. Okay, I see another question. Do you need to put in bank details for all the contact? So it's all like on you. So for example, for the property owners, you can put in the bank details for them. So after you do the property owner remittance, you can see there's an instruction for the bank details, which can help you to do the bank transfer to the landlord. But it's not necessary, it's just for your own information. Okay. Right, so now hi, can you hear me? Okay, cool, sorry. Okay, so basically for all the rent invoices, they will normally be generated by the recurring charges set up in Author. So for example, for this tenancy, the £500 rent invoices will be generated on the first day of each month. So it will go to Xero automatically if you have a schedule sync every day, and you can just reconcile it. So you don't have to manually create the rent invoice for each tenancy. But now, because I just want to show you about how to do the sync and how it's synchronized to Xero, I will just create a manual rent charge. So let's say, okay. So I just save transaction. And you can see this one is the one which I just created. And then I will run a sync on the tenancy level. To run a sync on the tenancy level, you can just click on the more drop down and synchronize with Xero. Okay. Recurring charges, frequency status, active, and then transaction type management charge. You click on that, and then literally just click on the part like this, just to get the list of countries. Just click on that, click where you want to write that. Yeah, scroll down. These are active, these are defined. If you go to the second page, or the third page, go to the third page. Okay, so the sync has finished. So now I just go into Xero and just click into your client account, reconcile 25 items. So it will bring you to this page, and on the left-hand side, those are your bank lines from your bank account. And on the right-hand side, these are the transaction you created in Author. So normally you'll get some automatic match here, but sometimes they can be correct. They can be the correct match with the bank line, but sometimes not. So you just need to make sure every time when doing reconciliation, you need to check for example, the reference and the date to see whether they are the correct match or not. So for this one, it is not the correct one. So I just click on the final match on the right-hand side. And then from here, you can just search by the name of the tenancy. So it will bring up all the outstanding transaction for the tenancy on this page, or you can just search for that specific TR number. So you can see in Author, we got like unique TR reference number for each transaction. So in this case, I just copy the TR number and then I go back to 0. So you can see this is the one that I want to reconcile this transaction, this bank line with. Then I just tick the box and then I click on OK. So you can see that bank line and the transaction will just disappear from this page. And if I run another sync in Author, you can see it will bring that rent invoice has been paid by the tenant. Okay, so you can see the sync has finished. And then if I refresh the page, so you can see this rent charge has been paid off. Sorry, this one. This is the one I just created. And if I click into it, you can see the rent receipt from tenant. So this is from 0 because I just reconciled it. And it has been allocated to the rent charge. And because the transaction type for the rent invoice this time is the rent charge, so 2 rent receipts will come back to Arthur. So one will go onto the tenant rent statement, and another one will go onto the property owner statement. So you can also see the tenancy receipt on the property owner statement as well. So yeah, so I think this is the one because it's on 10th of October, which is the date of that bank line. Okay. Is there any questions on this part? Okay.
And one birthplace. Cool. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, it's just I'll just go through your past tenses. Yes, just want to double check if you're next. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, cool. So why?
Okay, so I can see in the chat, does the sound works fine now? So I can see a question from Jack. So what if the zero connection isn't working? If you pay off a charge manually, how do you reconcile with zero afterwards? So basically we strongly don't recommend you pay off the charge manually in Author if your account is connected to zero. So I would say just need to wait till the synchronize is working fine, and then you can just reconcile in zero directly. Because if you pay off charge in zero manually, it won't synchronize over to zero saying that charge has been paid off. So it will probably cause double entry in this case. So I would say just need to reconcile in zero directly and let zero sync back the receipt. So Carly says our disbursement charge go to direct expenses. So that's correct. Or sometimes we can just create another account in zero for you, which is called disbursement control account. So it's all correct. It's also correct if you just let it go to a direct expense account. Yes, so Nicholas, when a tenant is paying their rent, do we have to give them a reference number created by Author or Xero? It is all your choice. So you can let them to put in the reference number in their reference of the bank transfer so that you can know which tenant paid which rent.
Just for overdue. Drop down, scroll down.
So Sana, I can see you typing a long paragraph here, but I would say, can you come onto the live chat so we can have a look at this in detail within your account, so we can answer your question in a more detailed way. Okay. So Ryan, when I am looking at the property on statement section for one of our client or one of our tenant, I can see transactions from all the other tenants too. Shouldn't this just show the tenant transaction I'm looking at? So yes, for this question, you can see if you are on the property on the statement in one tenancy, you can see from here, there's a little box saying show all transactions for property owner. If you tick this box, it will show you the transactions from other tenants if this property owner owns multiple properties. Or if you untick this box, it will only show you the transaction for the property owner inside only this tenancy. So this is the difference.
As you can see, there are
yes, so Nicola, for the disbursement charge one, so when we are setting up your zero integration, you can just inform us to maybe create another control account for the disbursement charge recharge. So it's like when you recharge in the landlord, it will cancel out the expense it will cancel out the contract's bill amount in that case. So it might be more accurate for in the accounting prospect.
Okay, so it might be the case that because what happened there is that you had the recurring charges generated. So there was an invoice that generated January's.
Okay, so
My understanding that would obviously seem to zero. So it might be a case that you need to avoid it to zero as well.
So Senna, can you send the email to support at author.co.uk so we can still get it on our live chat page and we can help you with that. So Vanessa, I had to manually record payment from Xero into Author because the bank isn't on your list. Is there a reason for this? So are you saying you are like manually importing the bank line to Xero? If it's the case, I think it's just Xero don't have this bank in their list, so I'm not pretty sure about why.
So yeah, just because
Okay, so we have bank fees for Metro Banking Xero. So well, I'm not pretty sure about why Xero don't have the Metro Bank on their list. Probably it's better to ask Xero support. You can ask Xero support if they can get that bank on the list. If you pay like additional fees, I think there is a function like this. But we have bank. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I think I'll just go on to like the overpayment and underpayment in Xero. Okay, so for the Metro Bank question, so I just got an update from my colleague. So currently we can't do the Metro Bank, but we are looking at like adding it in the future. Okay, no problem. So I will just go on to another basic reconciliation function, so which is the overpayment and underpayment. So in Xero, when you get overpayment, there won't be a like correct match for it because the tenant just overpaid their rent. So in that case, you just always click on finite match. And then, for example, because in this case, I would just randomly choose a transaction. Okay, so for example, let's say this tenant should pay only $6.95, but they paid $7.50. So in this case, you just select this transaction and then you scroll down, you go to new transactions, you click on it, receive money, and then you receive it as a overpayment. So in this case, it will just allow you to basically create a new transaction, which is called overpayment here. And the from, it will let you just select the tenant's contact, and you just make sure that you select the correct one, like with a nominal code after it. So you just select it. And then the reference, you just put in like whatever you want as a description of this transaction. And then you save transaction. Okay, so this is just an example, so I didn't select the same tenancy. And then it will allow you to reconcile. So after you click this, so I won't reconcile this because it's just for an example. And after you click this, two lines will come back to Arthur. So one would be the tenant receipt saying this rent charge has been paid off. And another one will be the overpayment, which will be a credit note sitting on your tenant rent statement in Arthur. So you'll be able to allocate that credit note to any future rent charges. So this is how overpayment works. Okay. And if it's an underpayment, so for example, you also click on final match. And then let's say they need to pay this amount, but they only paid this amount. So in that case, if you select that transaction, there will be a split function here, and you just click on split, and then you put in the amount you received and you split it. Then you can just click OK. So in this case, you can see there's 116.67 left. So this means that after you click OK and reconcile this, the tenancy receipt will go back to Arthur, but the receipt will only have $750 in the amount, and it will be allocated to this rent charge, but the rent charge is still outstanding for this amount. Okay, so basically for the overpayment, you just use the add new transaction function, receive money, and receive it as an overpayment. And for the underpayment, you use the split function here to split the rent charge into two parts, so the outstanding amount will still remain overdue. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward, right? Any question on this part?
So I mean, this is all the animals, names, their numbers. Yeah. Can we do that?
Okay, so I can see there's a question. Sorry, can you just clarify if a tenant send payment with the reference we originally gave them? How will Xero know to match it with the rent charge in Arthur? So the automatic match just works like Xero will just pick up the transaction created in Arthur with the same amount of the with the bank lines, and also they will just pick up the transactions that have like a similar date. But if you have like lots of tenancies, they need to pay the same rent charge amount. You'll probably need to check like whether this bank line is for this tenancy, whether it's correct. Okay, and another one is from Angela. Hi, do you need to sync sync the over or underpayment in Author, or does it automatically do this? So, so there's two kind of synchronization you can run. So in Author, if you go to financials and you go to Xero screen, if you go to sync history, you can see there's a configuration here. So if you click on this, you can set up a schedule sync that runs for you every day. For example, for this account, it will run on 6 o'clock at 6 o'clock every day in the morning. So after you do the reconciliation in Xero, you can either come into Author and run a manual sync from here, from synchronize, and click on synchronize here. So this will bring all the receipt, overpayment, underpayment back to Author. Or you can also wait to the next schedule sync to sync them back to Author. So this is all your choice. Okay, another question. What about a bulk housing benefit payment for a number of tenants? How do you split it up and allocate it to each individual tenant's rent charge? So in this case, if you go to Xero, so for example, I have the receipt item for £1,000 and I click on find and match. So in Xero, it will allow you to select multiple rent invoices at the same time. So for example, you can choose like 5 or 6 or like the corresponding tenants rent invoices in this case, and then it will add up to the amounts that you receive from the housing benefit, and then you can just click reconcile here. So because now the total is out by this number, so I can't reconcile it. So but if you have a list, for example, a list of the tenants rent invoice which this housing benefit payment covers, you will just know which rent charge to be involved in this reconciliation, and you just tick all of them and then reconcile. So the rent receipt for all those rent invoices will come back to Arthur saying they're all paid. Okay. So from Senna, if someone pays the rent earlier than the recurring charge invoice is generated, would you reconcile it in Xero as a prepayment and also then automatically match up when the invoice is generated? So there will be no function like prepayment or anything. So what I would recommend is that if you know the tenant is always, for example, they always pay 7 days in advance, you can go to the tenancy and go to recurring charges, and then you click on the drop down of that rent charge, recurring charge, and then you can edit days in advance. So you can put in like 7 days in advance in this case. So the recurring charge will generate the rent invoice 7 days in advance of the invoice date. And then it will go to Xero for you to reconcile. Or you can just, another choice is just wait for the invoice to be generated by the recurring charge, and then until then you just can reconcile it. Okay. Any other questions?
No worries, guys. Have a nice day, guys. Take care.
How can we set the traditional quarter days for invoices? So when you set up the recurring charge, it will let you to select the repeating frequency. So for example, you have legal quarter days. So this is the default one in our system. So this answers your question, right? Yeah, the in advance feature is super useful. Yes, it is. Okay, no problem. Is there a way to bulk edit days in advance? So, let me see. Okay, yes. So if you go to financials here, yes. So if you go to financials here and read recurring charges, so it will show you all the recurring charges in this page, and you just select the rent charge that you want to edit the days in advance. So for example, let me just select 4 of them, and you can just click on update recurrence. And from here, you can just edit the days in advance, for example, 5 days, and then you update status. So it will update for recurring charge at the same time. Okay. No problem.
Check his email, but I don't think we'll read that once.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and the mic yeah. Yeah, we'll check the source back. It's just that, perfect. Sounds good. I'll send you an email after this clarifying the other management tools that just so you get a reminder of our main management tools that we kind of recap. If you need me to go over anything, and it's to be comparative, we can go back over management is one part of it. Some actually with okay. Guys, thanks for joining the call. See you
Okay, I'll just wait for another 2 minutes. If there's any questions, just let me know. And I'm sorry about the background noise today because I'm in the office. Yes. It's great. No problem. Okay, so maybe are we going to cover the use of the bills and invoices generated in Xero today? So can you explain like what do you mean by bills and invoices generated in Xero? So basically we don't create bills and invoices in Xero. We create them in Author and let it go to Xero. Can you link into two Xero account from Author? We have some properties in personal name and some in limited company Xero account. Unfortunately, you can't. You can only link one Author account to one Xero account, and also the integration process is not reversible. So once it's done, you can't link another Xero account with this Author account anymore.
Yeah, I'm good. I just had a call from Ben. Obviously, the same people as yeah, thanks. So if we need to write about Ben Will.
Can you explain the options for support setting up this connection? And it seems quite complicated. So yes, we do have integration package. So let me just Xero integration.
Yes. So still he's also trying to put like tutorials.
So we have like several different packages. So the starter package is the package which we subscribe to Xero for you and then set it up for you. So the integration to a clean Xero is that you have already subscribed for Xero package, and then but the Xero is totally clean, you never use it before, there's no contact set up in your Xero. And the third option is that integration to an existing active Xero. So this means you have already used Xero before and you got all those data and contacts in your Xero. So, and for each one, we have 3 different packages. And the basic one is so for all of them, we'll just do the integration for you. We'll do all the works. And for the basic one, you'll have 2 set of tutorials. And for the plus one, you'll have 2 set of tutorials and 3 more training tutorials and 2 hours of finance support. And for the complete one, you'll have like additional 9 private training tutorials, online training days, and 3-hour financial support. And this is, and you can also view the price for each package. So you can search for this article in our knowledge base. You just search Xero integration and you can see this title. So if you don't know how to access the knowledge base, you can just click on your entity at the top and go to help and support with Author. And then from this page, you can just get to the knowledge base. I would also recommend you to investigate into our knowledge base because there's some useful articles about Xero and Author. So you can have a look at it and you'll get to know more functions about Author and Xero.
and then a big boy, £900 just pay for everything. You're like 16 stories, like 2 trains a day with that all comes to so they also want to also training. So instead of paying,
How can this invoices and bills in Xero be settled? So if you mean the invoices that comes from Arthur, so there will be, just as I said, will go to Xero and you can view them inside the contact of that tenant or that contact of that property owner. So if they just go through and you didn't do the reconciliation of them, they will remain outstanding in Xero as well. And after you reconcile them in this reconciliation page, you can also see in Xero that this invoice or bill has been paid and there's a payment related to it. And then you can just click into the payment to view the whole reconciliations, like which bank client it is related to. And for the other invoices and bills that generated, for example, for your business expenses, which is not related to your property management, you would just process it directly in Xero. And there's nothing you can do in Author because it's not related to any of your property or unit. It's for your business. So yeah. No problem, Vanessa. Have a nice day. Okay. Hope I answered your question, Alice.
yeah, so basically,
No problem.
0 and 6 in the check. The actual illustration is about yet. There's no point doing all of it until that's sorted. And she said it's best to leave those charges because it will limit towards her to actually practice on type training and save the tutorials you've got as part of the exercise complete and paid for. So any issue comes up, if I'm honest, probably need to set up got a lot of tutorials set up this version. If you did need to, I'll send you a last one, I'll do that. It's very simple. As soon as you press enterprise, the enterprise. But what she needs to say is no, she's hold up on doing tutorials until you hear the insert and we've done the training day and then you've got the tutorial projects. If that makes sense. That would be the best way to do it. Right. Yeah. Until you make until the zeros and straight, it's going to be. I believe she's forward. Adam or Alan, sorry.
Okay, if there's no questions, well, I'll just thank you for joining this webinar. Thank you all. And oh, another one. I have 2 legal entities would each need a separate version of Author or can Author link to 2 businesses. So unfortunately, no. You would just need 2 as well. So if you have so you need 2 Author entities, and if you want to use Xero as well, you need to have 2 Xero account as well. So yes, cool. Okay. Well, maybe that's it for today. If you guys have more questions, please jump onto our live chat or just book a tutorial with us. Or if you're interested in Xero or in Xero integration or our live bank feed, you can book a demo with us. So we can just show you all the things about it. And No problem. No problem.
No, you do the reconciliation first.
See you guys. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye.
I need to show.